You probably tell yourself that when you earn more, you will invest more. That seems logical. Income rises. Investments rise. But here is an interesting question. If that is the plan, why do contribution rates often stay the same for years? This is rarely a motivation problem. It is usually a structural problem. Many intelligent adults assume income growth automatically leads to investment growth. In practice, something else often happens. Lifestyle expands first. Investments remain static. Comfort improves slightly, but compounding quietly slows. You may recognize this pattern. You receive a pay rise and intend to increase your investments, but the adjustment never quite happens. Or a bonus arrives, and somehow it disappears into upgrades rather than assets. Nothing dramatic occurs. Progress simply stalls. The difficulty is subtle. Income increases feel incremental. Lifestyle upgrades feel justified. Contribution adjustments feel optional. And optional decisions rarely happen consistently. Now here is the part most people underestimate. Contribution growth is less about discipline and more about systems. Without a system, investing tends to remain static. With a system, escalation happens almost automatically. Think of contribution growth like adjusting a thermostat. If you increase it too quickly, it shocks the system. But if you never adjust it at all, nothing changes. The goal is gradual calibration. Later we will explore an overlooked factor that influences contribution growth: identity. But first, let us look at some structural mistakes that quietly prevent escalation. The first mistake is waiting for obvious surplus before increasing contributions. Many people believe they should only increase investing when there is visible excess money. But visible excess rarely appears, because surplus often disappears before it feels substantial. For example, imagine your salary increases. You might upgrade your living space slightly, improve convenient spending, upgrade technology, or make small lifestyle improvements. Each decision feels reasonable, but collectively they absorb your capacity. Now pause for a moment. If your income rises but your contribution rate stays the same, something important happens. Your earning power increases, but your compounding power does not. Over time this matters, because wealth accumulation depends heavily on contribution intensity during the early years. If contributions stagnate while income rises, the system quietly underperforms. There is a simple way to address this. Pre-commit a portion of every future income increase to investments. For example, you might decide that 50% of any future raise automatically increases contributions. That decision is made once, calmly. It is not renegotiated every time your income changes. Another useful adjustment is timing. When income increases, adjust your investment contributions first. Then allow spending to adapt to what remains. This reverses the usual order. Lifestyle adjusts after the system is updated, not before. There is another helpful tool: automation. Instead of waiting for motivation, schedule small annual increases. For example, increasing contributions by 1% each year. 1% feels small, but over time it accumulates meaningfully. Now here is where things become interesting. Small increments often succeed where large jumps fail. Increasing contributions by 1 or 2% usually feels manageable. Large jumps can trigger resistance, and resistance often leads to reversal. So gradual escalation tends to outperform dramatic change. Within a year it feels normal. Within several years the difference becomes substantial. Now let us consider a second mistake: escalating contributions too aggressively. At first this sounds strange. Isn't aggressive saving a good thing? Sometimes. But escalation should stretch your system slightly, not destabilize it. If contributions suddenly double and your monthly margin disappears, the system may feel fragile. Bills become stressful. Liquidity declines. and eventually the change may be reversed entirely. Now consider the alternative. Escalation that feels sustainable. Liquidity remains intact. Flexibility remains available. The system stabilizes. And contributions continue. This is one reason emergency liquidity matters. Before increasing contributions, ensure your financial buffer remains intact. Resilience should never disappear in the pursuit of discipline. Another helpful practice is spacing increases. Allow several months between adjustments. Let the system adapt. Observe how your finances feel. Then escalate gradually again. Now here is another mistake that quietly affects many investors. Tying contribution increases to market performance. When markets rise, optimism rises. Increasing contributions feels easy. But when markets fall, hesitation appears. Investors pause escalation at the exact moment discipline would be most powerful. This connects behavior to sentiment rather than structure. And sentiment is rarely stable. A more reliable approach is linking escalation to income milestones instead of market conditions. For example, each year your contribution rate increases slightly. Or each salary increase triggers a predefined escalation. The system moves forward regardless of market mood. Over time, this consistency becomes powerful, because contributions continue through both optimism and uncertainty. Now let us look at another subtle issue. Inflation. If contributions remain fixed while income rises, your effective investment intensity may decline. At first glance, the contribution amount appears responsible. But if income rises while the amount remains unchanged, the percentage invested quietly falls. Now pause again for a moment. Are you measuring your contributions as a number? Or as a percentage of income? This distinction matters. A static number can create the illusion of discipline, but a declining percentage signals that escalation has stalled. Expressing contributions as a percentage solves this problem. When income rises, the system adjusts automatically. Momentum is preserved. Now we arrive at the most overlooked element of contribution growth. Identity. If you see yourself as someone who invests when possible, escalation remains optional. It happens occasionally, but not consistently, because it depends on mood, comfort, and circumstances. But something interesting happens when identity shifts. If you see yourself as someone whose contribution rate increases over time, escalation becomes structural. It is no longer a special decision. It is simply how your system works. Success then becomes measured differently, not only by portfolio size, but by contribution percentage. You begin celebrating incremental increases, small improvements, gradual calibration. Over time, the identity reinforces the behavior, and the behavior reinforces the identity. The system stabilizes. Now let us bring this together clearly. If you want to increase investment contributions without feeling broke, the goal is not restriction. It is progression. Do not wait for obvious surplus. It rarely appears. Pre-commit a portion of income growth to investments. Escalate gradually rather than dramatically. Separate contribution decisions from market mood. Measure contributions as a percentage of income. And align the system with the identity of someone whose investing discipline improves over time. Small structural adjustments often outperform heroic efforts, because systems compound, just like investments do. If this idea resonated with you, you might consider sharing it with someone who has been meaning to increase their investments but never quite gets around to it. A simple like also helps thoughtful financial conversations reach more people. And if you want to continue exploring calm, structured approaches to long-term financial stability, subscribing helps the channel grow steadily. Because increasing investment contributions rarely requires dramatic sacrifice. More often it requires a simple system, one that moves forward quietly, year after year, almost without you noticing.